Welcome everybody to the October 2021 edition of Startup Monterey Bay Connect. We have a great, what do we call it? Program tonight. That's what we have, a great program. So I'm gonna give you a last chance to get in on the poll. We always love to know where people are coming from. And we got everybody, I think we got a few more people who have not jumped in there yet to say, hey, I'm from Hoboken. Except we don't have Hoboken on the list. Oh, we got someone from San Benito County. Cool. So I'm going to do what I do with my class, my 5-second left to get yourself in there, 4, and then 3, and then 2, and then 1. Last chance. Get it in. Okay. Let's see what we got. There's where we're coming from tonight. Got 1 person from San Benito County, 5 from Santa Cruz, 14 from Monterey, and 8 from somewhere else. So if you're from somewhere else, and put in chat where you're from. Let's see who had to travel the longest way to get here, which is kind of funny in the Zoom days. Where are we from here? All right, let's roll to the next slide. We got a Santa Clara County, we got a San Jose, California. Orlando, Florida. All right, Sean, I think you're going to be the winner tonight. Sonoma County, pretty far, but not as far as Orlando, Florida. Just reading about Disney World. Great article in Tahoe, California, pretty far. Cool. All right. Let us roll along. In case you hadn't noticed, we're on Zoom. You can ask questions using chat. Put them in chat. We'll keep an eye on them. Remember, your questions will be visible to everybody unless you send them to a specific person. You can send private messages, as I said, to a specific person by selecting them. For optimal viewing, stay in speaker view mode. I actually like being in gallery mode, but whatever is your preference. Please, if you're not on the panel, if you're not actively speaking, please keep your camera off. That allows the speakers to, Zoom puts them up in the top of the screen, which makes them easy to find. And keep your microphone muted. We love dogs, but in the middle of the event, they don't necessarily work so well. So unless you're speaking, please mute yourself. And finally, this meeting is being recorded and will be displayed on our website later. So if you don't want to be seen or heard, keep your camera off and your microphone muted. Next, please. All right, special thanks to our sponsors, Cal State University Monterey Bay and Startup Monterey Bay, that's us. And our marketing partner, Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. They've got an event coming up not too far into the future here. So welcome to Startup Monterey Bay Connect. We are here to network. It's a little trickier in our distributed days, but we still get to see and hear from different people, share and learn, find out what's happening, and build a community, because it takes a village to get companies started. And above all, we're here to have fun, make money, and change the world. Next, please. This is our team that puts these together every month. Hi, I'm Brad Barbeau, the guy in the upper left. I am the executive director of the CSUMB Institute for Innovation and Economic Development. Next to me is Mary Jo Zank. Say hello, Mary Jo.
Hi there.
There she is. I will hear from Mary Jo in a little while when she does the monthly news quiz. Is Dan on board?
I'm here.
All right, there's Dan Ripke. Excuse me. And our student intern, Aliyah Ibarra. Say hi, Aliyah.
Hello.
Aliyah is the one who does all the legwork to put all this together. So she does the lion's share of the work in getting this up and running. Andy Ravego, he does our video for us. Lynette Lathrop, who's driving the slides. Lynette, say hello.
Hi, everyone.
And Dr. Jenny Kwan, she is not here tonight. And Marianne D'Souza, their intern, is also, I believe, not here tonight. Okay, next. Tonight, drones, automation, robotics, technologies. What could be more fun? This is a preview for the DART Symposium. You'll hear lots about the DART Symposium tonight. Next, please. We have a pretty good set of speakers. Actually, we have a great set of speakers, pretty good in terms of numbers. We got 7 speakers tonight. Andrea Pesce from Ucsc, Chris Bley from Airspace Integration, Corey Garza from our own California State University, Monterey Bay, Dan Coughlin from Joby Aviation, just across the street from CSUMB, Ray Buettner from the Naval Postgraduate School, Andy Lyons from the University of California, Ag and Natural Science, and Josh Metz, the founder of Monterey Bay DART himself, joining us tonight. So let's see what's happening. Let's give everybody a chance to say hello. Best way to do it here is in chat. So this is your chance to toot your horn and sell your business, or sell people about your business. Type into chat who you are, where you're from, what you do, anything else we ought to know about. And we'll let those come up. Update my chat so I can see what's going on. Introduce yourself in chat. There we go. Chris Bley, his favorite color is orange. Didn't know that, Chris. We'll hear more from Chris later this evening. Tom Armstrong, attorney and investment banker to emerging companies, investment banker to the world. Thanks for being here, Tom. Adam Gordon from Plum.1. We'll see a little about them a little bit later. There we go. Now we're getting in there. Andrew Mann working on the Ag Tech Kitchen. Murat, I have a meeting with you either tomorrow or Thursday. Can't remember which day. Looking forward to talking to you. And all the other folks, welcome and thanks for being here. Let's roll forward. We got a lot tonight. Oh, it's time for the monthly news quiz. So Mary Jo, this is your time to shine.
Thank you, Brad. Welcome, everyone. So every month I try to find a couple of local stories of things that are happening in the region related to startups and entrepreneurs. And this month I managed to find quite a few of them right on our own, in our own stories on startupmontereybay.com and in our newsletters. So hopefully you're getting and reading these great stories and our tweets, and following us on those things. So let's go to the first slide. Okay, which former Startup Challenge winner just raised $1.5 million in seed round funding? And the 3 options are Infinirel, Levered Learning, or Musician Space. Oh, people are voting. Yay, yay, yay. Da, da, da. Come on, come on, come on. Okay, a couple more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's call it. So we have 17 for Levered Learning, 10 for Infinirel, and none for Musician Space. So Lynette, the winner is Levered Learning. So great story about Levered Learning. They're doing some great work helping bring math education to school districts, particularly those in some of the poorer communities. Next slide. Okay. Which presenter from the 2021 Startup Investment and Community Capital Expo was interviewed and featured in this month's IIED newsletter? Exactly. Barrier Structures 360 or AirSet?
Where we find out if anybody's reading our newsletter.
Yeah, who's guessing and who's reading? Ooh, we got a tie. It's a really good article. People are scoping, going online, trying to figure it out right now. Okay, I'm giving you 3 more seconds. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So 11 people chose exactly, 3 people barrier structures, and 9 people AirSet. And the real story, the real winner was AirSet. There's a great article by about Devin Carlson, who's the co-founder of both AirSet and Archer Components, and both of them have been participating in our programs over the years. So Devin's a serial entrepreneur. It's a great story. So our last question is, what is the name of one of the companies that pitched at the 2021 Startup Investment Expo and Community Capital Expo that is developing an alternative option to Google and Bing? Waka, the Octopus, and Plum One. All 3 companies pitched, so hopefully you're able to see these great presentations that the companies made. And if not, you can check them out now at the expo site. Okay. All right, I'll give you 3 more seconds. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so we've got 6 people saying it's Waka, 7 people, the Octopus, and 8 people, Plum One. So none of those names sound, common. So people, they all sound like they could be search engines. Let's figure out who's going to be the next search engine. Plum One, and I believe we have somebody here from Plum One.
We
Right,
do.
Brad?
Let's give him his 15 seconds to do his little the elevator pitch. Adam?
That would be me. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Gordon, the CEO of Plum One, brand new search engine. We're showing people what they can't find on any other search engine. So go try us at plumb.one and see what you're missing.
And I'll give my personal endorsement. I was doing some research work the other day using Plum One and compared the results that I got on Plum to the results I got on Google, and I got much more useful information from the exact same search, exact same keywords on Plum.one. So I encourage you to give it a try. It's a great search engine.
Thanks.
A little scary with the
Thanks,
options.
Brad.
Absolutely. All righty. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mary Jo. So if you want to be in the know, keep an eye on our website, startupmontereybay.com, on the news feed there. Of course, read our newsletter, and santacruzworks.org also has lots of news about what's going on in the region in the startup world. Okay. Startup Launchpad, if you're a startup business looking for help in getting started and talking to customers, in knowing how to put your business plan together, in getting funding, reach out to us at the Startup Launchpad. We do both drop-in advising and we have an ongoing mentoring program. Next. Get Virtual. If you or anyone you know who has a small business that is struggling these days and needs help getting their digital presence going. If you don't have digital presence, you don't have no presence these days. So Get Virtual is here. This is a student-run project, free help for businesses to get websites up, get their email going, get all set up in the virtual world. Reach out to startupmontereybay.com, Get Virtual, get-virtual. Okay. Upcoming events, what's happening in the near future? I'm going to turn this over to Josh to talk about the Monterey Bay Dart Symposium coming up next week.
That's right, Brad. Thank you, everyone. Nice to see folks here again. Yeah, this is an event that we put on 2 years ago for the first time and then got COVIDed last year. We're finally making happen again. We're really excited with the lineup of speakers that we brought together, 3 days focused on 3 important themes that are relevant to these technologies: security, mobility, and the environment. Each day we'll kind of have a focus, a little bit different focus with our speakers and panelists in those areas. This is some of our keynotes that will be there: Admiral Rondeau from the Naval Postgraduate School, and Tokes Omikashin from Caltrans. He's the director of Caltrans. Bonnie Simi is the head of People and Air Operations over there with Dan Coughlin at Joby. John McMillan is the Vice Chancellor of Research at UC Santa Cruz, and our man Brian Bow has had to bow out for scheduling purposes, so we're looking for a replacement for him on Tuesday afternoon. And then Glenda Humiston, UC Ag and Natural Resources Division. So these are the keynotes, but there'll be panels that happen in between them that dive in a little deeper on each of the topics. Those are shown here for each day. And then in the afternoons, kind of recognizing the situation with COVID being as dynamic as it is and was when we started planning again, we set up these afternoon in-person events. They're all going to be held outdoors at 3 different locations around the Bay that are not normally available for public access. The first is the Sealand Air Military Research Facility, SLAMR, and Dr. Ray Buettner will be touching on that when he gives his presentation a little later. Day 2, the convening point will be at the Ucsc Monterey Bay Education, Science, and Technology Center out there by the Marina Airport, along with hearing about some of the activities that are happening with UC Santa Cruz and drone-related research and education. We're also going to be treated to a tour of some of the Joby facilities led by Dan Coughlin, who's with us tonight. And then on Thursday, rather, the 21st, the afternoon event will be held at the Airspace Integration Facilities in La Selva Beach, and Chris Bley will be the host there. So a lot of great stuff coming up, and we hope you can join us. Yeah, good.
Great. Thank you, Josh. Turn my camera back on. There we go. Now I'm actually here. All right. Couple of other things coming up. One that we didn't build a slide for that I just realized we didn't build a slide for, and that is the 7th annual State of the Region, the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership State of the Region, coming up October 29th. And if you want to find out more about that, you can go to mbep.biz, mbep.biz, to get more information on that. I'll put that in chat. There we go. And then coming up at the end of January, our annual Startup Weekend Monterey Bay. If you've got a business idea you're thinking about and want to spend a focused weekend developing into a proposed business, this is the place to do it. January 28th to 30th, we fingers crossed, we'll be in person at the University Center for CSUMB this year, but we haven't made a final decision on that. We'll have to see how things go. We should have a final decision pretty soon. But in person or virtually, it's a great way to work on finding out what entrepreneurship is about and developing a business idea. So put it on your calendar. More to come. And next. Okay, it's time to head for our presentation. So just a reminder, if you have a question, put it in chat. We'll keep an eye on chat and make sure that your question gets answered. Next. And now it's time. I'm going to turn it over to our program master of ceremonies for the evening, Josh Metz. It's all yours.
Thanks, Brad. Yeah, so we got a great lineup of speakers, many of whom will be joining us next week, some of whom have joined us before. And so please enjoy what they have to say. The first, I believe, will be Dan Coughlin from Joby. He's going to tell us the latest, what's happening there, what they're working on. And then we'll go to the next from there, which I believe will be our man, Andy Lyons from UC Ag and Natural Resources. So without further ado, Dan.
Thanks, Josh. And thanks, Brad and team for inviting us today. We're excited about supporting the DART Symposium next week. DART and Josh have been great advocates for Joby as we've started our production planning and work in Monterey County and in Marina specifically. My name is Dan Coughlin. My title is Special Projects. I previously worked directly for the CEO and founder of the company. We've since established a more formal organization. So I work in a corporate strategy and development office. My duties since I've been at Joby since 2018 has largely been focused on establishing our production line in Monterey County in Marina. And I'll go through a little background of what Joby is and what our plans are. If next chart, please. So this is a problem we're trying to solve. Urban congestion is getting worse. Building new highways and trains, as you know, are extremely expensive. And so there are, limited options as to how to alleviate this, plus all the CO2 equivalents that are being ingested into our atmosphere as a result of traditional automobiles. So, about 30 billion hours are wasted in traffic on a year-to-year basis. We can tunnel under, or we can take to the skies. Next chart. And so, as I mentioned, and as we know here in California, building new infrastructure or new roads, new bridges, new highways is a very time-consuming and costly endeavor, and it doesn't help much for our environment. And so Joby, through our founder, started a company over 10 years ago in the little mountains of Bonnie Doon, just north of Santa Cruz. And he started off by, his name is Joby Bevert. He's a serial entrepreneur. I like to say that he's crazy, but good crazy. He really knows no bounds. He, wanted to tackle world problems, and he started an energy company and sold that to Google, and then turned his focus toward transportation, and started doing so by building small electric motors about 10 years ago, and then partnered with NASA about 10 years ago on a technology development effort that they had to build an all-electric aircraft. And the skeptics said it couldn't be done, that you couldn't, that the battery density technology just wasn't there, that you couldn't build a light enough airframe to have sustained flight. And just like Joby, he just tackled it. Next chart. The idea here is to create a transformative service or an aerial ride sharing service to alleviate traffic congestion. Next chart. This is our aircraft. This is called the S4. It's a 6-propeller, 4-passenger, 1-pilot aircraft. This is an actual photograph of one of our landing sites. As you can see, it's a odd-looking aircraft. It's a tilt rotor. So this is its takeoff and landing orientation. As you saw in the video when you came in, it transitions, takes off vertically, transitions to horizontal flight, reaches its destination, and then lands vertically. There are a number of, I'll go through these bullet lists here, safety features. It runs on it's all electric. There are battery packs in the wings. Everything is cross-strapped. There are 2 motors per rotor for failure. Each battery is cross-strapped to each prop. So if a rotor were to fail, the other one, it flies at less than 100%. So the counterbalanced rotor then would stop, and the flight would then be sustained on 4 rotors. Again, it's pilot, 4 passengers. It's extremely quiet. I don't know how to say this. I'm not a huge aircraft fan. I work for an aircraft company. I came from the rocket world. I've seen rockets blow up and rockets take off and now land. But I have to say this aircraft it's pretty incredible. It's the equivalent. It's 60 dB, which is techno speak for extremely quiet. It takes off and it sounds, I don't know, like a air conditioner, but not even that high pitched. It's a very pleasant sound. And so 60 dB as it flies overhead in any environment, you don't hear it. You hear, it's quiet when it takes off and it's quiet when it's land, but you absolutely, just don't hear it when it's flying overhead. It's quick. It's very lightweight, so it's all carbon composite. It's the airframe is all carbon composite, so it's very lightweight. It has about a 200-mile range, and it's zippy. It's faster than a Cessna 172. It's extremely economical. So the operating costs of this aircraft compared to a traditional rotorcraft is orders of magnitude lower. Takes a charge. You charge it, and it's got long range. Our sweet spot, and again, the intended business for this is an aerial ride sharing service. So think of it as an Uber in the sky. And next chart, please. This is just an example. So imagine driving from San Jose to San Francisco. On any given day, it might take you anywhere from an hour or an hour and a half to longer. A Joby aircraft will get you there in 14 minutes. That's point to point. Next chart. So the company was born in Bonnie Doon in Santa Cruz, and we continue to have a presence there. That's basically our prototyping center. We built a number of these aircraft there, flown them. It was our engineering hub. We have a facility in San Carlos that is dedicated toward our powertrain and our batteries. And we're able to leverage, the technology and the technologists in the Bay Area that, are from, various electric car companies. And so in late 2017, early 2018, the company knew, we were turning our focus on production, and that's normally where companies struggle. Any general aviation company that transitions from a prototype into production, it's very capital intensive. It's very difficult to get through certification, and so FAA certification. So the company looked closely at what other companies had done in our situation, and the company senior management decided to keep production, at least our first production line, close to our engineering hub. And so we wanted to be on an airport, and Marina is, old Fort Ord. They've got basically what was a helicopter airport there, had been turned over to the city in the early 90s, I believe. Josh was instrumental in growing the organization Fora and assisting the local municipalities in developing these properties that were turned over. Marina, the airport, has a number of large hangars that we've since leased, and we've spent the last 2.5 years completely refurbishing these hangars to get them to current ADA standards and that sort of thing, but also converting them to production facilities. It's labor intensive to build the aircraft, and so it's a lot of hand touch labor, and so we need space for that. So we've converted these 3 hangars. And if you come to the DART Symposium next week, I'll be given a walkthrough of 2 of the facilities, one of which is an extremely large tent that we built. It's a production tent similar to what Tesla had done over the hill. It's a 55,000 square foot tent, and it's days away from actually getting our certificate of occupancy after about 1.5 years of construction work. So these 3 hangars, we'll be doing our composite fabrication. So that's making the fuselage, the tail, the wing, and then all the subcomponents. Then another one of our facilities is an additive manufacturing facility, and that's a 3D metal printing. Within a matter of months, that will be probably the most premier 3D metal printing facility in the country. We have a number of metal parts on the aircraft that we intend to take through FAA certification to get them on the vehicle. It's aside from this use in our vehicle, it's a revolution in manufacturing at the moment. What you had to do by traditional machining with a CNC machine, welding things in parts and then, or carving them out in parts and then welding them together, you can now simply print. And it's not simply, but there's a process involved, but it is truly a revolution, enabling you to build metal parts that are very lightweight and very strong. And so we're building up that capability and going to take it through FAA certification. We have another hangar there that we'll use, for our flight testing. And so there will be a day soon when you'll see the Joby aircraft flying over Marina. These are our values. So safety is number 1. We're an aircraft company. You wouldn't believe the safety protocols we've got in our company, everything from where you put your stapler on your desk and keeping scissors to industrial safety and our production safety. And so it is our culture. It is vital. We've had very, very, very few incidences, and we're very proud of our safety record. We've been running through COVID. Our CEO set up an entirely separate company to do testing. I get tested almost every day. It's really the core of our values. Reinventing possible. Again, I'll say, even as of 4 years ago, the industry was saying it was not possible to do sustained flight with electric aircraft. And we've shown not only can you do it, but you can do it with extensive range and speed, and with passengers. Respect, integrity, and then I think our bottom, I don't know if you see it on there, it's Woot. Woot is it's our CEO's call sign. Whenever he's excited, he'll come give you a big hug and shout Woot. Next chart, please. These charts are a bit dated, actually. So we've through three series raised close to 750 million, I think. But it wasn't just investors, it was strategic partners. Our biggest 2 are Toyota. So Toyota has aspirations to get into the flying car game, but to explore alternate modes of transportation beyond automobiles. They've embedded 50 engineers and managers in our company. They are assisting. We were a prototype company. We are now turning into a production company with Toyota's assistance. It's amazing. These guys, and gals, they come in and they've helped us design our future factory, helped us to lay out our equipment, helping us establish processes and procedures, so it's not only just an investment from that company, but they've really taken us on as a strategic partner, which is great. What you don't see here also is our partnership with Uber. We actually acquired, I guess you could say, their division called Uber Elevate. So Uber had really done a deep dive into the future of air mobility, the UAM industry, and did a lot of groundwork with the regulatory agencies and cities, and trying to kind of lay the foundation for what is this revolution in in new transportation. And so that partnership is strengthening every day. We acquired, I think, around 30 to 40 people from their company. It's amazing the skills they brought with them and the tools that they brought with them, which is great. And they'll be a partner as we go forward into operations, which hopefully will start in full commercial operations in 2025. Next chart. I think this is an overview map. Yeah, this is kind of a janky chart, but this is a bird's eye view from Marina. You see this large tent. That's representative of the size it is. It's on the tarmac where they used to fly and land helicopters at Fort Ord. The blue square there is we've leased half of that hangar, and that's our additive manufacturing or our 3D printing room, lab. And then over in the far corner, you see the composite fabrication facility. We've completely refurbished that. And I mean, everything, the electrical, plumbing, IT, gas, everything. And we're putting in an elevator for ADA, and it's a quite extensive bit of work. Just to the right of that is a large hangar that I don't have circled here, but we've recently acquired that one, I say in the last year. And that will be our flight test hangar. And we'll be doing some simulation, some flight training there. Some software folks will be moving in there to support production. And then we've worked through, we've spent about 18 months, and Josh was very helpful in this. To the right of the tent here, it's a large tarmac. We've received planning commission approval to build a 580,000 square foot building, and that would be our phase 2 production. So what you see here, these buildings will be our first production line. We call it our low rate production line, and that's intentional. We'll be basically spreading our wings here, learning how to build this aircraft in a mass production mode as we work through FAA certification, which is extensive. You have to get certification to both operate the vehicle and to manufacture it, and everything is controlled. And so we'll be, learning the ropes in these facilities, and then our massive facility, the 580,000 square foot facility, if it goes here, would be, I think we've publicly stated that it's, it'd be in the hundreds of aircraft per year that we'd be producing. We are in discussions with a number of cities. I think we've publicly disclosed about future operations, LA being one of them. There are, a number of criteria that we've established for cities that we might operate in. We've done a tremendous amount of market research. It's all in our, modeling how we, the average trip, how many passengers per flight, and that all kind of feeds into our business model. So there's a tremendous amount of work that's going on now in anticipation of our operations, our commercial operations in 2025. Somebody asked about how much it'll cost. That's largely dependent upon the number that we produce, but we are targeting to get the price down to what you would otherwise pay in an Uber. And we've got a path to get there. It's not for the elite. This will be for, for everyday folks to get, in and out of, within the cities. I think that's it. I had a chart here at one point. We were advertising for folks, for basically, you can go to our website if you know anybody that's interested. We're going to be doing a lot of hiring in Marina, and mostly on the production side, but all support personnel and everything as well. So yeah, there we go. Thanks. Just some pretty pictures. This is what our blades look like. This is some of our technicians building the wing spar on the top left. We've got a machine shop up north. And I think that's the last chart, if I recall. Yeah, that was the team probably about 2 years ago. We've since grown. We're 800 people now. We really stepped on the gas during COVID, actually, and we're up to 800 folks. We've got people in DC and some overseas in Germany. We've got a shop in machine shop in China. They won't be doing for certified parts, but they help us with prototyping. And then a footprint. We've got folks that work remote, but most of the folks are up in Santa Cruz and in Marina now. And that's it. We should start our low rate production in beginning of next year. We're getting the tooling finalized for that now, and we'll be cranking out aircraft in Marina here, starting next year. I'm happy to take questions.
I've got a quick question.
Sure.
What do you think is going to be the sort of annual production 5 years down the road in the industry for these craft?
Projection of number of them flying.
Yeah, well, a number of sales per year, number of units sold per year.
I should have mentioned we plan to operate them, so we won't sell them.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so we're completely vertically integrated. Almost everything on that aircraft is built by Joby, aside from some of the avionics. We even built the display, rubber for the tires. We buy the tires and the windscreens, but for the most part, almost everything on that is built by Joby, and we tend to operate it as well.
So then I guess the appropriate question would be, how big do you see your fleet getting?
That large factory, which I didn't show a picture of, it's sized for 250 aircraft per year. And so we hope to hit full stride, in 2024, and we'll be, cranking out that number per year.
Got it. Thanks.
Sure. I'm seeing some interest. So my email here, I'll put it on the thing. It's my first name dot last name at joby.aero. And please feel free to reach out. Again, we're going to be at the symposium next week. Josh, thanks again. And please come out. We'll do a walk through the tent. I probably should have put a picture in that presentation. Since we've become so formal, I have to get presentations approved nowadays. So those charts are kind of stale. But we recently went public. I forgot to mention that. That was in August, a month ago. And we had our IPO. One of my projects was to actually get the vehicle disassembled. We hauled it all the way out to New York. We built it all night long for the bell ringing the next morning. And it rained on us all night. And then after the bell ringing, we immediately started to disassemble it, and it rained on us again. But it was fine. The IPO went great, and we raised 1.2 billion for that, and that will sustain us all the way through production and into initial commercial operations. So there's a question about yes, there are internships available. We don't have a formal program, but we do take on interns, and so it's really a matter of finding the right manager that'll take on interns. But we do, and with the caveat that we work them pretty hard. They come out of our programs with a lot of hands-on experience. The vehicle is capable. How high does it fly? The vehicle is capable of flying. I forgot what its ceiling is, but it can go higher than what we don't. So we don't have a pressurization system in the aircraft. So our sweet spot is flying from like Long Beach Airport to LAX. These are 6-7 miles, maybe 20 miles. So the vehicle has a tremendous, much higher range, and it can go much higher. But there's no point in going up that high when you're just doing quick short hops for intercity travel. You said what is the ideal pilot skill set to operate? So we've worked with the FAA, and we're working with the FAA on defining what are the certification requirements for both production and operation. But they're and this is where I don't really quite fully understand the pilot requirements, but it's a Part 13. So it's very, we'll establish the training program. Thank you. We'll establish the training program and train pilots ourselves. And we're in that regard, we put in orders for large simulators, and there's an entire operations group within Joby that are defining the training program. And we're going to need a lot of pilots. I think our operations director said the other day, we will be the largest operating airline, which is intimidating. We'll have more pilots and more flights per day than any airline, given the number of craft that we intend to build. Are there plans to make them autonomous? That's an interesting question. We can, so the vehicle has a very, very advanced flight control system. We call it a flight assist. It's not like a helicopter. It's much easier to fly. And I'll give you an example. We had Fiona Ma, State Treasurer. Is that right, Josh? Yeah. Down, and she flew our simulator, and within 2 minutes she was flying the aircraft. It is really easy to fly. The vehicle, won't let you do things that you shouldn't do, as opposed to a helicopter, which is, trying to kill you at any given moment. Ours, is, I don't want to say, you know, it's on its way to becoming autonomous, but that is a whole can of worms with the FAA. And so the vehicle was built with, you know, the regulatory environment in mind. So we have a pilot flying it for sure.
So I'm
that's it.
just seeing that, not to cut you off too much
Sure.
there, Dan, but there's a lot of great questions and interest. I would say, just given the time that we have tonight, first of all, and
Yeah.
also leave some fruit on the or some meat on the bones for people to come out to join us.
Agreed.
Next week. You can speak firsthand with Dan and get your questions answered. If you come join our event next week, we'd love to have you out. Dan, it's always great to see you again and get an update on what you guys are doing. It's so impressive. I love the big vision and the implementation. All this stuff is just really exciting, and to have it happening right here, right in the Monterey Bay region is just fantastic. So
It's been with your help, Josh,
Yeah.
truly. But yes, if you want to see a really, really large tent, please come out next week. It's
and some other cool stuff. Not
Yeah.
just the tent, so. But thanks a lot, Dan. And I
my
think,
pleasure. Thanks for the invitation.
next, we would shift from large people moving aircraft to discussion. Dr. Andy Lyons, who is a researcher and a geospatial specialist with UC Ag and Natural Resource Division. He's been a great colleague of ours at DART now for probably 3-4 years at least, and our collaborations have included and mostly focused on the implementation of this drone camp, which Andy will give a little talk about. And so without further ado, and to keep us moving along, Dr. Andy Lyons.
Great, thank you so much, Josh. That's a pretty hard act to follow. Thank you for putting me right after the space age people moving drone talk. But what we do have in common is that we were brought together by DART and by the work of Josh and Chris and CSU Monterey Bay. So I'm real pleased to talk tonight about the professional development training program that my group's been part of for about 5 years now. In the last few years has been in deep partnership with organizations within the Monterey Bay area, the Central Coast. You can see the organizations listed there on the slide. And it's gone real well, and it's continuing to grow. So a little bit smaller in scale, a little closer to the here and now, but still pretty exciting. Next slide. So what our training course, so this is essentially a 3 or 4 day short intensive course. It's really about drone mapping. So in other words, we're not pioneering new hardware or teaching people how to like robotics or build drones, but what you can do with the amazing data that can be collected from drones, which is primarily through cameras or sensors. Everything from your high quality RGB cameras that you get on prosumer drones, moving up the scale to multispectral sensors that can see in the infrared region and higher in thermal sensors and even LiDAR. And this has been a game changer for agriculture, natural resources, land management. There's so much that this kind of data, the spatial scale, which is, pixel sizes are like, centimeters in scale, and the ability to work with this data in software and create these three-dimensional structure, models of, structures and landscapes has just been phenomenal. It's allowing people to ask new kinds of questions. And it's just been a real game changer for research and science and management. Next. So that's what we're about. And kind of the impetus for, having a 3 or 4 day intensive short course is there's a lot of moving parts to make this work. So this map here, this is kind of like a roadmap for one of our introductory slides. It kind of highlights all of the skill sets and the workflow to go, to get those products that we just looked at. Everything from like, is this the right kind of data to begin with? Is this what you need for your question? To understanding the equipment, there's lots of options there, lots of trade-offs to think about. It's changing a lot. The regulatory and safety issues are paramount. If you do need some high precision mapping, that requires another set of processes and things to think about. And then the whole data analysis, it's a big part. A lot of people don't realize what they're getting into. Stitching the images together, managing the data, analyzing it for to convert your data into the information that you need. All of this it's a lot of pieces. So that's what we try to bring together in Drone Camp. It's a very kind of comprehensive A to Z curriculum to help people get further along this path. Next. So we've done this now for 5 years. It kind of started out modestly with just internally within our own organization. In 2019, we came to CSU Monterey Bay. That's been definitely my favorite drone camp to date. We did our flying practice at Fort Ord Natural Reserve, state-of-the-art facilities at CSU Monterey Bay. Mary Jo, Dean Andrew Lawson, Pat and Pietro. We just had some great collaborators there. It just worked really well. We located the program with the first DART Symposium. So all of these threads came together in a really great way. 2020 and 2021, we had to go virtual. The benefit was we had a lot more people who were able to participate, 340 people in 2020. We had 250 people last year. And we're now trying to understand like hybrid training, right? So we're actually doing this Saturday a flight instruction at the Fort Ord Reserve. And another shift that's happened in the past year is that the planning committee has really kind of expanded, and we're trying to make this more sustainable, dividing up the workload to planning this thing. And it's just gone really well. Next. We've had lots of participants. Again, going virtual allowed us to really broaden the reach of the people. And you can see the maps of the participants from 2020 and 2021, very international. And we're hoping next year that we'll be back at CSU Monterey Bay to keep it going. But there's been a strong demand for this because there's very few other places where you learn the whole workflow. Next. This is a picture of the various presenters and instructors from this past year. It was at the end of July. I won't try to mention everybody's names, but as you can see, there's like a lot of folks that have been involved in this. So it's really filled a niche, and it's been a great way to build collaborations with these various people and organizations. Next. So shout out to Brandon Stark. He does most of the presentations on just flying safely, everything from night flying to operating controlled airspace to being good visual observers. He is with the UC system based at UC Merced, and is a real expert on everything regarding safety, but also, of course, all the drone regulations, which are changing all the time. Next. This is just a picture of some of the hardware that we cover. This is always a popular topic. I should say that we basically teach and introduce people to off-the-shelf hardware. So we're not doing the kind of the cutting edge robotic stuff that's still under development, although we do invite collaborators to come in and talk about what they're working on. But everything from the small quadcopters that a landowner might own, all the way up to the fixed wings and the VTOLs that bigger people might want to use. Next. Fieldwork, preparation, and mission planning. So the guy in this photo here, that's Sean Hogan. He does 90% of the drone flights within my unit. I forgot to mention I'm with the Informatics and GIS program, which is the GIS group within the UC Division of Ag and Natural Resources. We support our network of advisors, farm advisors statewide. So one of the things that people need to learn is all of the details, all of the moving parts to actually going into the field, putting all the equipment together and collecting useful data. Next. Probably the biggest niche I think that our program fills that, compared to other programs out there is the data processing and analysis. So this definitely includes stitching the images that you get down using software like Agisoft Metashape, Pix4D, but also, once you've stitched your images together, usually that's not the end goal. Usually researchers will want to then do classification or pull out the plots. So there's a whole nother pipeline of steps, usually involving GIS software. So we have a range of workshops And again, going virtual allowed us to expand the offerings of software that we can support through these hands-on workshops. Next. These are some of the organizational sponsors that we've been involved with over the years, either in cash or kind for different kinds of involvement. We aspire to continue to expand these, maybe with some of the people in this meeting, but it's been really great. And of course, one of our goals is to connect the users of this technology with the organizations that are providing the services and the cutting edge research for the next generation of technology. Next. So keep it in mind if you're interested in this kind of thing. There's the website there. I'll throw it in the chat window as well. Josh has already done that. We do plan to do this again next year. The band is already getting together and talking about how we're going to organize this. Probably going to be June or July again. Might be hybrid, might be all virtual. We're still working that out. But please stay in touch, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about Drone Camp. And there's some other people here on the call, including Josh, Corey Garza. He's one of our regular instructors. And yeah, take any questions.
And maybe what we'll do is look to the chat so we can keep it moving, because I know that we have a number of speakers to get through, if you don't mind, Andy.
That sounds good. I will take questions in the chat. I know we're running long, so yeah.
Thank you for this great update. Indeed, this has been and remains a great collaboration. We are lucky to have your leader, Glenda Humiston, giving a talk on Thursday. And so join us for that. The day on the environment will feature a number of topics relevant to the UC Ag and Natural Resource Division. And we look forward to continuing to work with you, Andy, and the rest of the team there. So thank you for making it here tonight. So yeah, we were quickly gonna shift gears a little bit. Our man, Dr. Ray Buettner from NPS, has a hard stop coming up soon. So Dr. Corey Garza has graciously agreed to let you move in front of him, which, you guys can talk about that later. But no, really, Ray, we appreciate you making it here. We know you've got a busy schedule, and we really want to hear about all the interesting things happening at NPS, and really what I think is particularly interesting for this group is the mechanisms that and programs that you're setting up to kind of increase the connectivity to the private sector and build an innovation pipeline to meet our national security needs now and into the future. So without further ado, Dr. Ray Buettner.
Josh, thanks a lot. So as Josh mentioned, my name is Ray Buettner. I'm an associate professor at the Naval Postgraduate School. I'm going to talk to you tonight about our Sealand Air Military Research Initiative and our Joint Interagency Field Experimentation Program, and some work that we're doing that is intended to make it easier for industry and non-traditional industry to work with the Department of Defense, including the Naval Postgraduate School here in Monterey. Quick disclaimer, I'm a professor. I'm giving you my opinion and my thoughts on things. I don't speak officially for the Navy, the Naval Postgraduate School, the president, any of those people up there in Washington. You're just getting my 2 cents worth on things. So with that said, I will put it in chat, but there's a couple of websites I thought would be good to show you. I mentioned the Sealand Air Military Research Initiative, and I'm going to share a screenshot with you here. And you should be seeing that right now. So the website you're looking at, America's Slammer, is intended to provide the information you would need to engage with the government. We have an initiative in 5G. So those of you that want to look at advanced high bandwidth, low latency communication systems and how they might work with your drones or your equipment can come talk to us and join us on the website for conversations. We've got local events that are occurring. We do field experiments every quarter. These are free to industry that proposes to do an experiment that might have national security implications. And while I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to drones, both aerial drones, surface drones on the water, subsurface drones underwater, subterranean drones. Yeah, if it's a robotic system and it moves, I think it's pretty cool. And we do a lot of work with that in the government. But we're also interested in autonomous systems. As you just saw a moment ago, these drones don't fly just for themselves. They fly to produce information and data that's actionable for different purposes. So things like software algorithms that can rapidly stitch together images from one or more drones. The underlying artificial intelligence that would fly these systems independent of an operator, alone or in swarms. So the school way back in 2015 or 2017 rather, flew a first fully autonomous swarm of 50 vehicles where every single vehicle acted on its own with its own information. So we're very excited about those things. And the Slammer website is designed to make it possible for you to learn about the work we're doing. And we've tried to do this with business in mind. We tried to do this. We have ways of forming partnerships with different companies. You can see some of them here. Elroy Air is actually an aerial drone company that's up in the Bay Area. AT&T, you all know, is partnering with us now for 5G capability at our Slammer lab. We are working across the government. So when you work with us, we share your information with other people in the government to kind of help them understand what you're doing. And the website that I'm showing you is intended to make it easier if you're trying to figure out how do you work with the government. So we try to make it really make sense. If you go to info you need and you wanted to learn about how the government does organizes itself to do different things, and you want to start doing research for the government or get funding from a research entity, well, this would help you do it. If you think you want to work with the Department of Defense, you click on this and it will tell you all about the different government agencies, how they work, and what you might need to do. If you come up to opportunities, this will describe the different ways that you can work with the government, from broad area announcements through partnerships. What if you've heard, an RFP, what's an RFP? You can go figure that out here on the site too. In addition to that, I've mentioned field experimentation a couple of times. We host these quarterly experiments where there'll be 30 or 40 other government agencies coming in to learn about the technology that's provided. So the Slammer website is intended to help you get done what you need to do. And there's the request for information that we use to share. So basically, very open, very inexpensive. It's already paid for by the government for you to come out and experiment with us and help us learn about the neat technologies, the neat things that you guys are doing together. We also feature a blog on the piece. So as different things change, how government defense spending, where it goes, opportunities to propose to different government solicitations, we will post these in the blog so that, again, it's easy for you to kind of one-stop shopping, figure out what's going on in our little ecosystem there. So let me stop sharing this for a second. Oh, and thanks. We got the links already published out there on the website. I'm going to share something else with you here real quick, give you an idea of what we've been up to locally. So the programs I've talked about are intended to support very broadly our engagement with industry, but we've been doing a lot locally. And what's kind of new and we're excited about is what I'm showing you right now, is we have added in a capability here locally that is, again, accessible to our neighbors in the local area for looking at surface drones and subsurface drones in the aquatic environment. So we call these, unmanned surface vehicles or unmanned undersea vehicles. But we've already started to reach out across the larger enterprise. And when you experiment with us, the information goes all the way to the top of the DoD systems. So the Joint Artificial Intelligence Center holds an annual AI symposium, and we are part of that, increasing the visibility of the Naval Postgraduate School and the companies that we are working with. We've added in the aquatic facility so that we can take the same kind of field experimentation we've been doing for years with drones back to the original Predators. If you remember the early super drone that the US government used to fly, we're working to try to include the maritime domain. So companies that want to work in the water, over the water, under the water, we want to be able to work with you. So what we've done is we've taken what used to be a wastewater treatment plant, 3 large 450,000 gallon tanks, and we've repurposed them as a modern robotics facility for testing and exploration. And this is a small company that's testing out their CSAT, they call their vehicle there, as part of one of our field experiments a little while back. And we like to have our military officers engage with the companies and talk about how they might use your technology and have them learn about where you see things going. We've created a contract vehicle that makes it much easier for us to work with a small company. Basically, there's a prime contractor already in place, and a small company just has to make arrangements with a larger company, and they would pay you as a subcontractor to make your capability available to the government. So we can do that. We can do a contract in 6 weeks instead of the federal government where it can normally take up to 6 months to do a contract. We are working with companies all around the country. Of course, we like it when local countries are involved. And we work on issues of direct national security implication, military in a direct sense, but we also look at it national security broadly. So illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing, illicit traffic of persons or substances. These are important things, whether or not there's a war going on. And we think there's a place, if you will, for experimentation and collaboration to go after these kind of problems. And again, while I like drones, we talk about them a lot, we're also interested in sensors, we're interested in social media, anything that kind of helps us better understand what's happening in the world around us. And a big part of that is evolving the digital enterprise, as we call it, learning to communicate better with our colleagues. So Slammer is out there on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn. You can follow us in a variety of different formats. We want to make our information accessible to you wherever you are. Part of our emphasis is that same distributed experimentation. So we just had the nice boot camp image where they talked about their classes are now expanding nationally. And we're doing the same thing with our quarterly field experiments. In fact, we had one group that was experimenting down in at our field lab in Camp Roberts. One of the company's technology there was being looked at by a group in the Pentagon in real time over our distributed experimentation network while the experiment was going on, while the folks in the Pentagon were trying to determine if they should fund that particular company. So there's a good opportunity to kind of get your technology in front of more national security related folks as part of the work. We're working hard, as I mentioned, to explore maritime domain awareness and linking together a variety of unmanned systems of all types around sustainably powered, ocean powered, wave powered buoys kind of systems, so that we can explore better ways to address the problems I mentioned with illegal fishing and trafficking in the littorals. And again, we consider that maritime domain awareness, which has national security implications beyond the law enforcement ones. We incorporate this kind of thing into our educational materials as well. So as a researcher and a professor, I get to interact with your cool technology. I get to make the next generation military leaders aware of the cool stuff you're doing and what that might mean. So as you can imagine, a lot of people are looking at Joby and what they're doing with their technology as huge implications, both domestically and internationally, for the ability to move people around quickly and quietly in a more sustainable fashion. So that's hugely important from national security perspective in a variety of ways. When we do our work, we also include international partners. So in this case, we have an Indonesian student who's very interested in some of the technology and is actually talking to his government about some of the neat technology being developed in the United States that might offer a lower cost, easier to use capability than they have in their country. So really a chance to kind of expose your technology to the world. The Slammer effort so far has been about a $2.825 million effort. And with that, we've proposed over $20 million in annual research. So a lot of work going on there. For those of you that are available on the 19th, and if we're able to get through the last couple of hurdles on the COVID protocols, we'll be hosting some of you at the DART Symposium out at the Slammer facility, which is adjacent to Monterey Bay and right across from our campus. And here you can kind of see the tanks as they're building out and the work we're doing there. That's my plan for continuing to build out the facility we're on and how we're going to do that. So I'll leave that slide there for a second, and I will take any questions that we have.
anyone with a want to raise your hand for a quick verbal or type it into the chat? Or did we lose your contact info up there?
So I'll pop that down in chat there.
Yeah,
Josh.
okay. So thank you, Ray. I mean, you know, I have to say, from the standpoint of what we've been working on over the years here, having, you know, the presence of your activities, your working group, and this endeavor is a huge draw for people to come, establish connections, and do things in the Monterey Bay, and, you know, really I think drives the geography, you know, of interest. So really key assets for this whole ecosystem that we're working on, and we're really grateful to have your partnership. And so yeah, anyone who will be joining us in person during next week's event, we will be gathering Tuesday afternoon to see the facilities at Slammer, and then the after event social will be held down at the Dust Bowl Brewing Company just down the beach. So with that, if you're getting excited to sign up for the symposium, we've gone ahead and created a special discount code for this group, friend of startup at Monterey Bay. I'll put a link to that in the chat, and this will give you a 25% discount on ticket pricing. There are a number of other options there for students, and even a hard times option if you really need that to join us. We hope you can make it. And Ray, thank you very much for sticking around and showing us what's going on over at Slammer and NPS. Great. So now we'll shift again back to our natural resources folks, although not too much of a shift because it will remain somewhat in the marine domain. We'll hear from Dr. Corey Garza and his really interesting and cutting edge research using drones as a new tool for mapping and monitoring marine ecosystems. This picture in my background is a field site up on the north coast of California in the town of Fort Bragg, Mendocino County, which historically has had this wild fishery. The economy there was driven on lumber and fishing. And just in the last few years, there's been this tremendous die-off of kelp. And that has led to a whole series of other ecosystem reactions that now have led to this overpopulation of the landscape under the water by these sea urchins. So that's a whole kind of ecosystem sequence there that you know, is driven by things that we don't even see. So it's really, I think, calls out the importance of the kind of work that Corey and his team are doing, and they're able to use these, you know, new aerial robots with imaging technologies and other stuff to get this great information. So Corey, without further ado, let's hear more about what you're up to, and hopefully see some pictures of kelp.
Okay, great. Let me get. Oh. All right. Hey, everything. Thanks for sticking around. So I'm Corey Garza. I'm a professor here in the Marine Science Department at Cal State Monterey Bay, and also direct the West Coast arm of a cooperative science center that's funded by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, also known as NOAA. And so we're the Center for Coastal Marine Ecosystems. So just to get to the story about what we're doing here is I'm gonna talk a little bit about some work we're doing with kelp forest monitoring using drones that have been funded as part of our center here. But just give you a little background on kelp if you're not familiar with it. It's a pretty sort of recognizable habitat in California, but it's also pretty critical habitat within sort of the coastal ecosystem. A couple of things that it does: one, supports fisheries, things like abalone, rockfish, if you're in Southern California, the lobster fishery. So it's a real important sort of habitat for economically important species. It's also provides other critical ecosystem services, and that it supports other types of habitat and species that actually play an important role in marine systems, and in some cases can act as a buffer against wave surge during the stormy season. So it plays a lot of different types of roles in the state. But in recent years, there's been pretty big declines in kelp forests along the California coast. And so some of you might remember the stories about the blob, and the big heat waves that we had coming through. And a lot of the decline started back around that point. So in the last few years, the state of California, a number of the federal agencies, they've been interested in, one, trying to repopulate kelp, but also trying to assess how some of their restoration or management efforts are going. But one of the challenges is that the scale that you're seeing these shifts on are pretty big. They're across the whole state. And the traditional way that we've monitored kelp is what you're seeing here on the right is scuba diving. While that was worked out really well in the early years of kind of trying to understand the coastal systems here in California, it's a type of approach that really struggles to keep up with the spatial scale that we actually need to monitor kelp with. And so what we're looking at here, or with our particular program, it's we support faculty research and student training here on our campus. But these drones, one of the things they're doing is they're letting us extend the spatial coverage, the amount of area that we can cover across the coastline in a relatively short amount of time. The other really cool part with these drones, as you'll learn, is they have their internal GPS units that let us sort of replicate our position in space. We're doing the survey, plus or minus a few centimeters. Have you ever dove underwater? When I see underwater dive surveys, you were constantly getting thrown about underneath. So whether you're actually surveying the same space every time, it's highly somewhat questionable. The other thing that's really neat about this approach is that it reduces the amount of people and time that you have to have out in the field. Normally with the dive team doing these surveys, you need about 4 or 5 people, and that comes with a financial cost attached to it. You can see here, we've got a couple of our NOAA students here. It's just the drone operator covering the same amount of space in a fraction of the time. So recently, last year, we were actually approached by the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary about helping support their kelp forest mapping effort. And so because of COVID, they actually weren't allowed to send out NOAA dive teams. They were actually restricted from having in-person research. And so their other option was to reach out to us to use drones. And so we went up last year to the Sonoma Coast and actually started using a series of our drones. So we have about 12 drones that we manage right now. And what you're looking at here is one of our heavy payload drones. And so we can actually put special optics on here, something called multispectral imagery here, which lets us actually distinguish kelp from the surrounding marine environment. And so we're actually able to map, a kilometer of shoreline at a time within a span of about an hour. That would be nearly impossible to do using traditional dive approaches. And so you can see the type of data that we get out of the kelp forest mapping. So this is analogous to the type of aerial mapping they do for terrestrial forest systems for the forestry industry, where you take an aerial image and then you kind of estimate the amount of land that's being covered by the forest you're interested in managing. We can actually take the same approach here. And so what you're looking at is a type of kelp species that's actually prevalent on the Sonoma Coast called bull kelp. The Latin name for it is Nereocystis here. It has little bulbs. Then they call it bull kelp. It looks like old bullwhip. So the top of it looks like the handle of an old bullwhip, and then the lower part's really thin. But this is an important habitat up there. In part, it actually helps to support the abalone fishery that's up top. And so these are pretty large areas that we're actually able to go and map out up there on the Sonoma Coast. And part of what we do here is we then use machine learning approaches that can actually classify or detect the bull kelp relative to the non-bull kelp component that's in there. And then we can actually get an estimate of how much area that it's actually covering out there. And so we have a really quick way of doing that. Trying to classify that by hand would take you, 3 or 4 hours in an image. We can actually program some algorithms into our computers and do it within a span of about 30 seconds to a minute in this case. And we get an accuracy rate of about 90 to 95% in here. And so this image here should give you a sense of the amount of area that we can cover. So this is one of our drone flights from last year up on the Sonoma Coast. And so just to give you a point of reference, this little circle here, that little tip of the point, that's where our drone team was based off in this case. And you can see some of the kelp here. This is about almost 1.5 kilometers of shoreline that we were mapping in about 500 to 600 meters offshore here. The drone's actually able to map this in about a span of about 50 minutes to an hour. Doing that with divers would take you almost a couple of days at this point. And so we're getting really high resolution data, a lot of it in a very short amount of time. It only took 2 of us to do this at this point. And we also didn't have to rent a boat to get out there. And so the drone's giving us all types of really cool advantages in helping to support this ongoing monitoring effort. So I think we're coming right in 5 minutes here. So just to close out, with what we're doing with drones and coastal research here at Cal State Monterey Bay. Well, one, the drones are giving us a pretty low-cost tool for coastal monitoring. Now, if you look at the two drones here on the left and the right, this is the DJI Mavic on the left, and this is Patty and Pietro, our head drone pilot here with a Phantom 4. These cost us about $1,500 to $2,000. That sounds like a lot, but it's a one-time investment because I'm also not paying for 4 divers to go out on the water, a boat captain and crew, then boat time to get out there, which adds up really quickly. And so this is a real low-cost approach for us to do kelp force monitoring. The other thing it's able to do, as you saw from the last image, is that it's allowing us to cover a really big amount of area in a short amount of time. And that's actually really critical for the type of thing that we're looking at. Because these changes are occurring over really large expanses of the coastal zone, but you're also getting these rapid changes that happen as well. And so we actually have to have the capacity to pick up these changes both across time and space. And the drones are letting us do that in ways that we couldn't before. Because we actually have this extended spatial coverage now, we're also can pick up sort of features out of marine ecosystems that we might have missed using traditional monitoring approaches. I joke with my students that, I used to look at the world through a little square quadrat about this big, but it was forcing me to miss like everything else that was going on because that's how I was trying to look at it. So when you can look at these systems from a different way, you're able to see patterns and trends out there that you might have missed otherwise, which gives you more insight into how that system is changing. And then the last part, I think Josh hinted at this, that I also teach, my other hat is I'm a teacher. And so I'm always looking at new ways to get, the next generation of coastal scientists engaged. And drones are giving us that tool here. Scuba diving, even though I was trained as a scuba diver, it's also somewhat of a barrier, especially if you're coming from a low income background, or maybe you have a physical disability that prevents you from doing that. It's really expensive. You have to pay for the dive training. You have to buy all the gear. A drone is, you get a drone and you hook up your smartphone to it and you're ready to go. And so drones are also giving us a way of sort of engaging the next generation of students who are going to be the next generation of coastal resource managers here in California. I think with that, that should be the end of my talk.
Corey, you get the award for the most on-time professor talk of the night. Very well done. I think Professor Brad Barbeau over there is quietly clapping behind his screen because
Absolutely.
Really, we'll just in the interest of time, we'll again defer any questions into the chat and follow up, outreach. We're all pretty good at that at this point, I imagine. But the work that you're doing, Corey, I just love hearing about that efficiency part. I mean, it's such a great case study in how these new technologies can deliver transformative insights, certainly from the sciences, but all these range of applications. And then, I think the point on the, next generation of coastal researchers and the accessibility of the technology is also one that, deserves special note. We are talking about a sort of creation of a new generation of workforce, if you will, across a broad range of applications. And by acknowledging, we talk about some of the complications of increasing equity and increasing access to jobs across a range of job types. And if we acknowledge from the beginning in this growing field that, there are ways to increase the equity, then we should do that, explicitly. And I like seeing what you're doing in that regard. And just myself, I've been involved in a little research project recently where this has been called out by some of our colleagues at UC Santa Cruz. So I just think it's really worth noting that we can be intentional about growing a diverse workforce of the future. And I think it really deserves attention. So thank you for doing that and joining us tonight. Let's see, how many speakers do we have left? Just a time check at 7:30. What do you normally do when you're running long on these events, Brad?
We go fast.
Okay, so this is going to be called the the lightning round, and not to put anyone on the spot, but you're on the spot. Andrea Pesce from UC Santa Cruz, and then followed with a quick inspirational round by Chris Bley, and that should get us to the finish line. So without further ado, Andrea Pesce, UC Santa Cruz, DART board member and inspiring leader and engager of industry and partnerships. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. I'm going to be really quick, but first I just want to say thank you to Dr. Corey Garza. I can really appreciate your talk. I thought it was really awesome, and it's a shame we haven't met sooner. I think diving is really special, but certainly not at all efficient. I did my master's thesis on kelp forest ecology and probably put back a couple hundred dives on kelp forest survey. Anyway, thanks. Thank you, Startup Monterey Bay. I'm the Director of Industry Alliances and Licensing at UC Santa Cruz, which means that I work with UCSC's corporate sponsors on research collaborations, and I also work with startups that want to develop UCSC's innovation to make an impact out there in the world. So I wanted to take this opportunity tonight to put some context around day 2 of the DART Symposium, specifically the on-site location known as UCSC MBES. I'd like to just tell you very, very quickly a little bit about where it is, why it's interesting to the DART community, and why you should come see it. So where it is, it's in Marina, California, just west of Salinas, south of Moss Landing, north of Monterey. You'll see the little star on the map there. We're neighbors to CSUMB. This is a around 475 acre piece of property there that UCSC owns. The headquarters building, which is that building that you see in the photo there, is right next to the Marina Municipal Airport. On the other side of the airport, as you saw from Dan today, is Joby. It's nested right in the middle of several major highways that run, the 101 down to the Salinas River Valley and north to Silicon Valley, of course. So it's got this great physical location to bring all kinds of different DART themes together that we're talking about. And there's just so much going on around the Bay, and UCSC is beginning a process towards building research activities and future multi-sector partnering at this site. So as I mentioned, there's a lot going on that you'll hear about at the symposium. Joby's here. The ag tech industry is booming with all the marine and ocean science expertise that you also heard about tonight all along the Monterey Bay. This is a huge entry point for the blue economy. And of course, with our open spaces, UC MBES Research Park's proximity is just really exciting, especially its proximity to the airport and other exciting locations. You'll hear very briefly right after me, Chris Bley, talk about what's going on at the airstrip over at Airspace Integration. Just the drone industry is really moving in here. So UCSC is really doing a lot of research in these areas and is already collaborating with several academic as well as industry partners in the region to do more at UCSC MBES. I have up here in the corner 4 of our collaborators of many that we're already doing work together on. We're working together on some of the programs that I have down here listed already, and planning to do more with our academic and industry collaborators. I'll just leave them to tell you about it at the symposium, so we're short on time. And you'll hear from all the leaders of the programs that are listed down there. You'll also hear from our chancellor a little bit more about MBES. MBES, by the way, is Monterey Bay Education, Science, and Technology Research Park. You'll also hear from our new Vice Chancellor for Research, John McMillan. He'll be one of our keynotes on day 3. And you'll hear more about these programs that I have listed again, and you'll also hear about some other more DART relevant programs that UCSC has going on and might be interesting to the community. So with that, I'll just finish by saying that UCSC looks forward to working with you all on all things DART now and in the future. Thanks for your time. I look forward to seeing you next week.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrea. That was great. I really like the focus, but I also like the your use of the background. So I'm going to take a little lesson from you. I think that's a worthy way to go. So thank you for that introduction. And indeed, people,
Glad you liked it.
yeah, come on out and
Come
join
on
us
out.
next week. So without further ado, we will shift to our final speaker, Mr. Chris Bley, last but not least. He sits quietly in the back, but this man is a powerhouse networker, and he is the co-founder of Monterey Bay DART, and he has been a colleague and a friend of mine. So Chris, tell us more about what this grass airstrip is here in the middle of your picture and other things.
Thanks for the introduction, Josh and Andrea. Good update on UCM Best. And I kind of see the grass airstrip and what we're doing at Airspace Integration and in La Selva Beach is kind of a little bit of a stepping stone on the way over there to Marina and what's going on at UCM Best. So yeah, just a quick overview because I know we're running late, but yeah, just a couple of images of what I've done in my past, currently doing, and kind of the future. So was using drones for inspecting wind turbines, large wind turbine blades, and getting that information and imagery and passing that to a software program to share it with people. And then currently is the picture of the grass airfield that is at La Selva Beach and that we manage, and that we have a small incubator going there, but other things that I'll mention in the rest of the presentation. And then, you know, folks like Joby Aviation, I noticed this is a little older craft that they have, but that's what's so interesting about this world of innovation. Usually what you start out with, it doesn't end up with that at the end. You know, it's a series of testing and experimentation, and we do that all the time. So the next slide, if I can get it to change here. This is one of the projects that we have going on at the Monterey Bay Academy in La Selva Beach. So right above the grass airfield, the Naval Research Lab has installed a very sophisticated weather station with Doppler LiDAR, K-band radar, fog monitors, and other devices for doing coastal observations. And so this is very valuable for doing research over the Monterey Bay, but also with aviation and flying things. Obviously, weather is very important. So we're planning on using this system for some exciting things. And then I just want to mention another type of drone that we're used a fair amount rather than a multi-rotor drone that's fighting gravity all the time. This is kind of a combination of the two. It's known as a Vtol, so vertical takeoff and landing. So the motors rotate up, so it takes off vertically, and then the motors rotate forward, and it's using lift to keep the craft aloft. So this particular craft has a 90-minute flight time and has a payload bay that goes underneath for carrying different types of cameras in the visual spectrum or other spectrum to look at things like the kelp forest that Corey mentioned. So, and then all the way on the right, there's even a more sophisticated sensor that's known as LiDAR that does true measurements, which this craft also carries. So it's very flexible in what can go in it and the data that it can gather. And then even combined, you know, with the weather instrumentation that we have on the terrestrial side, the meteorologist there said, hey, can I put weather equipment on board this particular craft? So we have a project going on right now where we're integrating weather instrumentation equipment so we can do observations from the land, but also out in the field be collecting that weather data and then correlating it. So that's can be very valuable in fire, looking at fire weather situations and a variety of other things. But it's that bringing together of two things that kind of seemed unrelated, but it makes a lot of sense. That's very interesting and we can do. And then these are just some of our collaborators with the Naval Postgraduate School, the Naval Research Lab, UC Santa Cruz. Parallel Flight is one of the incubators on our property. We're also working with University of Fairbanks at Alaska, looking at airspace management issues. And it's also combined with an organization called Virginia Flight Information Exchange. And so really exciting things going on in the world of airspace management. And then just a pitch for our symposium next week. So you've heard that on several different layers, but day 3 is going to be at our facility in La Selva Beach. So I hope you can make it out for the in-person events and particularly at La Selva Beach. And then just the whole concept around building a community is what we're doing. So, I think that we have some very unique things going on in the Monterey Bay region, and a lot of innovations have gone here over the years, and I see a great future for more of them taking place. So thank you very much.
Excellent, great wrap up of what we're doing, and what you got going there, Crystal, is inspirational. And I think focus on building the community. I can tell you just from getting started with you in particular now 4 years ago, things have developed, and it happens not all in a big one-hit wonder, but by a series of small steps. And maybe if this is about entrepreneurship, and this is about being innovative and creating new things, I think that's one message that to me is maybe seems obvious, but is worth kind of contemplating more deeply, that there is a long road, and getting from where one begins to where one finishes or reaches some level of maturity with a product or service can take time, and it requires many players. So that community is really important. So that is indeed what we're doing, and we encourage you all to come join us next week. And you can look us all up at montereybaydart.org. And I think without anything further, Brad, the mic now goes back to you.
Thanks, Josh, and thanks to all the presenters. That was a great setup for the symposium. Really interesting variety of things. It's amazing that this area, this fairly quiet area in many ways, is becoming a global center for drone technology, and very, very exciting. So thanks to everybody for all of that. And now, if I can find the screen, let's roll on. It's a reminder, people, stay updated on what's going on. Subscribe to our newsletter. There's the link, and I expect it will show up in chat fairly soon. To subscribe to our newsletter. Let's roll forward. Thanks to our sponsors, CSU Monterey, Startup Monterey Bay, that's us, and the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. And I think our maybe final slides. See you in November. We'll be on second Tuesday of November. As always, we have a lineup of amazing regional restaurant entrepreneurs who have built these amazing restaurants. Restaurants are really, really hard to run, and they're really, really hard to run the way you want to run them. And these are entrepreneurs who have found very different ways to run their restaurants. And I think their lessons of how to turn a vision into reality is a really great one. So join us next Tuesday, November 9th for that program. It will be great. And we hope to see you all next week at the DART Symposium. Thank you all and have a great evening.